While we are going to begin. My name is Nicole, and I'm the manager of the Community Learning Engagement team at the Victorian National Parks Association. It is my great honour to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands from which we're all calling in today. For me, those are the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I recognise their continuing care of and connection to land, water, culture, and community. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to any First Nations people joining us today. If you happen to know whose country you're on, I invite you to put a mention into the chat as well. So welcome all to our third Nature Stewards webinar. Today we are focused on some exciting results, early results coming through for our Alumni Impact Survey. And also the chance to hear from one of our wonderful nature stewards themselves, a bit of a first-hand account of their time with the program. It is a webinar, so we can't see your faces or your hands. Please feel free to use either the chat or the Q&A function if you've got comments and questions. Towards the end of the session, after we've had our presentations, we'll be doing a bit of a Q&A session. I'd like to pass now to our Development Officer, Andrew Keast, to give a brief overview of the program and also to introduce you to our special guests. Over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Nicole. Just sharing my slides here. Hopefully you can all see those slides now. Welcome everyone. Yeah, for those who haven't attended our previous webinars, just an introduction to the program. I'll just share my slides there. So to start with, the Nature Stewards program is a multi-week course that promotes environmental literacy and stewardship of nature through discovery, action and ongoing learning. It's our aim to foster curiosity, confidence, community connection and encourage people to notice nature. The Nature Stewards program was originally seeded by Outdoors Victoria some 4 or 5 years ago with funding from DECA. And it's based on the Master Naturalist program in the US, which has been running for almost 50 years now and across some 30 odd states of the US. The program here was developed by leading scientists, conservation experts, traditional owners and environmental educators, and it's really designed for adults who are curious about their local ecology and environment, who may not have formal qualifications but are wishing to learn, connect and participate in their local environment and community. The curriculum and program is typically hosted and funded by local councils and partners, and I'll talk about partners in just a moment. It's a collaboration between local subject matter experts, guest presenters and local groups. The program typically runs for 6 to 10 weeks with 10 class sessions and 4 to 6 field trips that are woven in amongst the class sessions. And you can see the 10 units that we cover off there, from Welcome to Country to an introduction to First Nations culture and place, looking after nature, ecosystems, geology, soils, plant life, animal life, water and water life, seasons, climate change and fire ecology, and then program reflections and next steps. And we really encourage participants to present a project, a passion project that's perhaps inspired by the program at the end as part of the graduation ceremony. Our program partners extend from Outdoors Victoria to Parks Victoria to Port Phillip Bay Fund, who recently funded our marine and coastal content, to Melbourne Water and Friends groups and a number of councils. And as I mentioned, local hosts are typically local councils, and we've now worked with over 25 odd councils across Victoria, across both metropolitan and regional Victoria. Everyone from Marybeck through to Mornington Peninsula, Monash, Macedon Ranges and in between. Kathleen will speak in a lot more detail in the next session about this, but the key course benefits that we do measure as part of our impact survey include increasing in the local understanding of the local ecology, positive shifts in pro-environmental behaviours, an increase in local community connection and an increase in well-being. Life after Nature Stewards, we encourage people to participate in all sorts of ways following the program and during the program. So there's opportunities for local volunteering, connecting with citizen science groups or friends groups, local land care groups, pursuing creative projects such as the slide there on the right, and connecting with other groups and local councils. We've even had participants starting their own sustainable gardening business or even running for council. Another example of some creative projects that have come through the program, an illustrator and a jewelry maker inspired by nature. But I think one of the key aspects for us is the community connections that are made through the program, and we'll hear both Kathleen and Carolyn talk about those community connection benefits that come from the program. Ultimately, encouraging people to both explore further their local ecology, but also connect with each other beyond the program. Lastly, the pricing model for the program. So we are a not-for-profit member-based organisation at VNPA. The program is run as a cost-neutral program. Council hosts typically fund the delivery costs around 17,000, and that includes covering all the facilitator and presenter costs. We encourage around 20 participants for each program over the 10 weeks. And participants pay a small fee of around $300 as a full fee or $180 as a concessional rate. And VNPA funds the ongoing Nature Stewards curriculum development, monitoring and evaluation program, facilitator management, and overall program marketing and development. As I mentioned earlier, we do have significant partners that have worked with us in promoting the program and facilitating the program. They include catchment management authorities such as Melbourne Water, land care organisations, and other supporters of the program. And in some instances, that can include them subsidising participant placements in the program. Lastly, just my contact details and our program coordinator's contact details. Should you have any other questions about the program, we'd love to hear from you. And I'll complete the slide here now and introduce you to our next speaker, who is Kathleen Baggett. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Kathleen Baggett. Kathleen's been working with us on the design and delivery of the impact survey you're about to see, and will now be presenting the interim results from that survey. So over to you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Andrew. So, hi, my name is Kathleen Baggett, and I'm presenting the long-term impacts of the Nature Stewards program, which I conducted and was funded by the Victorian National Parks Association with the Nature Stewards program. So to start, just a little bit about, first of all, these are hot off the press results. These have just been amalgamated very recently. So just a bit of background about me. I'm a social sciences researcher for the last 25 years. I did a PhD in environmental psychology, and since then have worked as a research fellow for a range of different universities and institutions, including 3 of the top universities in Australia. And I have presented locally and nationally and have over 60 peer-reviewed articles on a range of different topics, but all with the underlying premise of looking at what can help optimal functioning for individuals and community in today's world. About 10 years ago, I set up Data Draw Consulting, which was to be able to provide a level of expertise at a reduced financial cost than what you would normally have to pay in order to have similar research done by a larger institution. And since then, I've had a range of clients going from across healthcare, research and education organisations, as well as some of the universities themselves. So the Nature Stewards program engaged me in order to be able to develop and conduct a research to look at what are the medium to long-term impacts of people who are participating in the Nature Stewards program. So they were particularly interested in wanting to know if there were changes in individuals' knowledge and behaviours, whether local environment and social connections were being sustained, what impact on volunteering membership and activities were happening, and importantly, what sort of health and well-being impacts were that the participants had experienced that were, retained over the long haul. So we developed an online survey that went out to all alumni who had completed the Nature Stewards program within the last at least 12 months or more ago. And we had that open for about 3 weeks. There was a prize draw that was offered, and we had 109 surveys that were completed. And I have just finished doing the preliminary analysis, so about to present some of those interim results for you now. And we're sort of touching 4 key areas. First of all, the first one was that people had acquired and applied new knowledge and skills. So that was meaning that 3/4 of the participants were noticing or identifying features in their environments that were new to them. And they were doing that mostly fortnightly and some monthly, but on a fairly regular basis. 41% of the people who had completed the program went on to commence or complete further study or training that was going to enable them to continue to help support the environment. And for those who didn't know the name of the First Nations traditional owners of the land where they lived or worked, 92% of those knew the name after completing the Nature Stewards program. One participant said that I still remember the joy of learning new things. It was a very happy and fulfilling experience, and I was privileged to participate, especially, and they described themselves as old and retired, and summed it up with saying it is a wonderful program. The second area where the benefits were found was engaging with the local environment. So we found that at least 3/4 were visiting local places on a fortnightly basis, with an additional 15% visiting once a month. And if you can see on the figure on the right-hand side, that almost 60% of people were now visiting these local areas more often after having done the Nature Stewards program. What nearly 100 of our participants were doing, where they were then, of our survey respondents, were taking our other people out to these local places. So over 2,000 people have been introduced to these local areas, and they might have been friends and family, colleagues, neighbours, a whole range of people were being helped to come out and to visit local areas. And then we found nearly, between 1/4 and 1/3 were more involved in environmental activities or events that were being organised by the council. One participant said that they felt more connected to people and place, including the community that I live in and the local environment that we share. The third area that we've identified was that people really started undertaking pro-environmental behaviours. A lot of the participants had already been doing pro-environmental behaviours, but a full third of participants indicated that since the program, they had started participating in citizen science activities, and that might have been at a local area or national programs that were being run, like Counting the Birds Australia. People were sharing positive information about the environment with other people, and 30% had actually become a member of a local volunteering club. For those people who were doing the environmental volunteering, there was nearly 17,000 of volunteer hours that had been completed. About 10,000 of those were hands-on, so that might have been attending a planting day or doing weeding on a regular basis in a local reserve. And then a further 6,500 hours were done on things like the administration or behind the scenes types of activities to support that hands-on environment work. One participant said that completing the Nature Stewards program meant that it actually had motivated them to do what they'd always said that they were going to do, which was to join a community group and to regularly volunteer. They went on to say that they thoroughly enjoying the people that they've met through joining such a regular group. And the fourth and final area that we found were that there were improvements in well-being. And we can see that on the right-hand side in that figure, we can see that over 60% of people felt that after participating in the Nature Stewards program, that it had increased their feeling of being part of the community. And there was an increase in people's overall satisfaction with their life and what they were achieving in life. One of the WHO organization's measures of well-being looks at, which is the World Health Organization, that after spending time in nature, which we saw in the earlier results had increased after completing the Nature Stewards program, that nearly everybody after spending time in nature was feeling cheerful and good spirits, feeling calm and relaxed, or feeling as though their daily life had been filled with things that interest them. So one participant indicated that participating had helped them build a local focus on my environmental science knowledge and rekindled my love of the natural world. And they went on to say that the best part would have to be growing their social network. So in conclusion, the interim, medium to long-term impacts of participating in the Nature Stewards program included increases in knowledge and skills for participants, with many indicating that they're still using the resources and recommended things that had been provided to them during the program, that they had stronger local connections, both to the environment, but also to other people. They know the name of traditional owners. There was an increase in the number of environmental volunteers, but there was also an increase in the number of hours that people were volunteering. And a range of improvements across a range of different facets of well-being were reported. When we asked them if they would recommend the Nature Stewards program to others, we found that 93% would do so, very high. And just to finish with a voice of a participant, was if you get a chance to do Nature Steward, it's worth it. It's great value. You learn heaps about the local area and you meet great people. It's a fantastic course and support by the local council. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Kathleen. Fantastic. Really appreciate you presenting the interim results, and just to emphasise, they are interim results and we're looking forward to final results at some stage early next year. I'd like to move on to our next guest here. It's now my pleasure to introduce Carolyn Tate to you all. Carolyn's a recent participant in the Nature Stewards program on the Mornington Peninsula. Carolyn's a Red Hill resident, a writer, a community builder, and speaking to us about her experience on the program. Thanks for joining us, Carolyn. I'd like to
Thanks,
start.
Andrew.
Thanks, Carolyn. I'd like to start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you chose to join the program.
Mm. Yeah, so I've been a writer and a river swimmer and a water lover and nature lover for a number of years. And my partner and I moved to Red Hill about 2.5 years ago, and we didn't really know anyone in Red Hill. We bought 10-acre property, which we call ourselves the current custodians of. And we knew that we wanted to build community and become self-sufficient and go off grid, but also rewild the land that we were living on. The 10 acres was pretty much overgrown with pittosporum and pine trees and a whole lot of blackberries and other invasive species. And it was really important. It is important to us, and it was important to us when we first bought the place to really try to rehabilitate the land. And I think we didn't know what we didn't know. Neither of us never having done anything like that before. It was a brand new project. And so when Nature Stewards came up, we just realised it was absolute perfect course for us to learn a lot about the species that should be there and what we would need to do to rehabilitate the land and so on. So yeah, that was why we joined the course. And it happened to be just around the corner at the Red Hill Hall, so literally a walking distance. So there all the stars aligned, and we just knew that we needed to get them learn what we didn't know. What's that? what is it that you say? You don't know what you don't know. And that was the reason why we decided to do it. And also to build some local community because being new to the area, we didn't really know many people. So that was, another reason to meet some like-minded nature lovers.
Fantastic. What would you say some of the things you learnt on the program?
I think one of the things that really surprised me was that the peninsula, I think, has 20 ecological vegetation classes, the most diverse in Victoria, if not Australia. And so to understand where we live in Red Hill is a very different vegetation area versus the coasts versus, even down up north on the peninsula. So I think it was really surprising to learn how varied the vegetation is on the peninsula. And also, I think that, just understanding what were the indigenous species that would have been around Red Hill one time before colonization, and to understand that native vegetation is not the same as indigenous vegetation, um, and the variety, I think, of we also had a person come and speak about the ocean and marine life. And so it wasn't just about the land, it was about waterways as well. So it was a complete variety of learning that, yeah, it was really fantastic.
Brilliant. What do you think some of the things are that surprised you about the program?
Um, I didn't expect, I don't think, to get the quality of presenters and speakers. We just saw Kathleen. She was one of our great presenters as well. I reckon there must have been over 20 different experts that were presenting their knowledge and experience and expertise. And I think I was quite surprised at the level of expertise and the depth of the knowledge and the um, quality of content and stuff. Yeah, I don't think I was expecting that. And I think, because it's such a good value course, like, most courses cost a lot more than what Nature Stewards does. And I think having a course at such good value for the quality of the speakers and everything was just phenomenal. So that was a real surprise to me. And just so much good content, it was just great content.
Great. Thank you. In terms of knowledge acquisition, what did you learn from the program that stuck with you most today?
Um, I think going back to sort of just the vegetation and applying what we learnt to the place that we're living on, and now being able to know what this grass is and what that gum tree is, and perhaps how old it would be, and what its threats are, potential environmental threats are, and just I think being able to identify plant species. And also we got introduced very well to iNaturalist, which is fantastic for identifying plants. And so yeah, we had this little program going at the farm called Free the Tree. So we'd find a gum tree on our place that was really being invaded by, there'd be a pine tree that would be growing right next to it, or there'd be blackberry all over it, or some pittosporum growing all around it. So we knew that we were pulling out and sort of rehabilitating the trees that were already there by just because we knew what plants they were, and we knew how to do that as well. We kind of learnt, I think one of our trips, we looked at how to manage pittosporum and how to sort of remove pittosporum so that it doesn't spread and that it's done safely and not damaging other trees and things. So yeah, the very, very practical knowledge that we're applying, my partner and I now are applying every single day at the farm when we're sort of yeah, out there doing our day's work.
Yeah, fantastic. And we've seen from Kathleen's presentation some of the impact results of the program being increased knowledge, strengthen local connections, or knowledge of traditional owners and culture. increasing volunteering or improved well-being. Which of these would resonate with you in terms of the program experience you had?
Oh, definitely, I think well-being and as much through nature connection as through human connection. I mentioned before that we didn't really know anyone living on the peninsula and around our local area. And we met, a few people that have now become friends from that course. Because I think this course really does attract like-minded people that do want to make a difference and make an impact for nature and the environment. So it was great to be in a room full of people that are also passionate about nature. So definitely well-being from a personal connection, but also from a deeper nature connection. And in terms of volunteering, we created, my partner and I, and a few others have created this group called We Share, which is a food swap, skills swap, time swap. Like it's a swap group of people on the peninsula, and we've now got 25, 30 members, and we come together and share dinner. We swap produce because we're also about growing our own food and supporting local businesses and so on. So I think Nature Stewards was kind of like a grounding for us to launch this new initiative called We Share, which is really, yeah, been going now for about 6 months, and it's really, really become quite an important part of both my partner and I, our lifestyle here on the peninsula.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. Thanks, Carolyn. Is there any other sort of final words or summary you might offer for listeners to the program?
Oh, look, I just feel that Nature Stewards is great because it gives you a good taste of a lot of different things as subjects. And I think from doing it, you get to sort of understand what your thing is or what your passion is within the breadth of the course. And then you find the other people within that group that share the same passion. So um, I think if you have any love of nature, it's going to be deepened by doing Nature Stewards, and it's going to allow you to find the thing that you really love, the absolute most. Because we did the project at the end, and everyone presented a specific project that they were going to focus on, and my partner and I did. Presented a project that we were going to rehabilitate a certain section of the land that we're living on. And so that's taking shape now. And we had offers of help, which we haven't taken up yet, but maybe we will, because I think everyone really does want to help each other as well. So I think the community building aspect, and yeah, picking a project and applying it. I think it's always important when you learn something to actually find a project where you can apply your learning practically. So I think that's definitely one of the greatest benefits of Nature Stewards is bringing what I've learned into the real world.
Fantastic. Really appreciate your reflections there, Carolyn. It's fantastic, and yeah, thanks again both to Kathleen and Carolyn for being our guest speakers today. I'd like to now open it up to any questions that there might be from our attendees today. You're welcome to pop something into the chat or the Q&A function. And we'll leave that open for a few minutes and hand back to Nicole.
Yeah, well, I actually had a question for Carolyn. So you mentioned I guess, kind of more of the hands-on experience, the field trips, in particular, and going out and learning like identification, how to manage things. Um, what was your experience with the more kind of like in-class style learning and the facilitators and that sort of structure?
Yeah, I think the facilitators were really, really knowledgeable and very friendly, Anton and Kylie. And I think the discussions, because we have breaks and breakout groups and discussions and practical tasks, it was really interactive. And I think, yeah, the format was great. And Yeah, the instructors were really knowledgeable, and if they didn't know something, they would find it for us. And they got thrown all sorts of curly questions. And there were some really knowledgeable people in the group as well. So it was good to actually learn from the other participants as much as it was from our facilitators.
Excellent. Um, I don't think we've got any other questions, so I'm just going to keep going. I'll have one for Kathleen now. Um, so I guess Kathleen, yeah, as was briefly mentioned, you actually presented to a couple of our classes in the sort of early days of the course around the benefits of having those nature connections. And you obviously got to meet a few people, meet Carolyn, meet our other participants on the courses. Um, did you get the sense when you were kind of just dropping in as a presenter of the kinds of things that are kind of bearing out in the results now with what people were talking about in terms of connections? Is it kind of an instant thing that you were seeing on course, or do you think it develops slowly over time by the time they get to session 10?
Mm. Great question, thanks. I have to put my other hat on now, really, sort of put my both of my hats on. So on the first day, typically of some of the courses, I come and speak about the benefits of time in nature to the group, and it's sort of half about the science and what the research shows, and then I present, and then we do a sort of interactive activity that sort of draws on all of our different senses, engaging with natural items in a range of ways. So, and during that process, obviously, we do part of that outside, some of it inside. And the thing that strikes me at each of those sessions is that people are so keen to learn and ask questions and are really engaged with, not just my content, but, other people's content and what's going on around them. And the variety of people that are drawn to the course, there's something in it for everyone because people are tapping into different levels of expertise and experience, and some are very new and novice, and some are quite expert. So when you think about that curriculum and you think about those engaging activities and the connections with other people, it really isn't surprising the breadth and the curriculum that the Nature Stewards program has designed and developed and refined over time. It's not surprising that the benefits that we're seeing from a medium to long term go from including knowledge, which is more cognitive, to people's behaviors in their day-to-day life, which is, behavioral, and then people's, physical and social and emotional well-being. So it is amazing the breadth of things, but in some ways it's not surprising given the way that the program's set up and how it is then delivered by people. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just curious I was wondering whether, I guess this is kind of just a bit more off book, but I was wondering whether we're like whether it's who we're drawing in or whether it's something that's being developed over time. And I think probably the answer is a bit of both.
Yeah, I think it would be a bit of both. I think we have some additional data that I haven't yet delved into to be able to explore that maybe, a little bit more as to what level of as to what people are coming into the program with and then what they're leaving with. But the overall sense of it was that, people were having a great day when I was there on that day, and that was certainly coming through in the results and unfolding because the results are at least a year, because the survey was at least a year after people had participated, then those things that had been developing over the 6 to 10 week course and then continued, that they were still alive for many people. Yeah, even that, at least a year or, to up to 3 or 4 years on. Mm.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I don't see any questions in the chat, Andrew. So unless you've got any other questions, we might be looking to wrap up a bit early.
Yeah, happy to finish up there, but I think I've got the contact details up on the screen earlier, so hopefully if you've got any other questions beyond the webinar here, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay. Yeah, so once again, thanks, Carolyn and Kathleen, for joining us and sharing some of your experience and your data with us. Again, thanks everybody else for joining us. If you weren't able to join us at the start, if you've tuned out, we'll send a message out to everybody once this webinar has concluded, and we have the recording up on our website for you to view and share at your leisure. But please do get in touch with us if you want to learn more. Thanks all. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And hopefully we'll see you again for another webinar.